Alright, hi everybody. Welcome to Miss O'Brien's health class. Today we're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to learn about balanced diet. So we're going to start with a do now. So I'll hand out a worksheet for everybody. I just want you to think from your memory all the foods you ate in your last 3 meals and just write down as much as you can remember. So I'll start handing out those sheets.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take a couple minutes to do that. Everybody just write down what you remember from your meals.
Do you want snacks too?
Yep, anything that you can remember. You can make it from yesterday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you can do lunch, dinner, and breakfast from this morning, whatever you prefer. Save the bottom part of the sheet until later.
Okay.
Just filling out the top part.
I need him just one more moment.
Okay, take your time. Okay, would anybody like to share what they wrote down for their meals? Okay, Carol.
For breakfast, I had toast with butter.
Okay,
And then for a snack, I had an apple.
okay.
And then I had fish and potato and mixed vegetables and a salad.
Good. Okay, so it sounds like throughout your day you had an assortment of foods, which is very good for having balanced meals. So we're going to go into more detail throughout our lesson today to see how we can better balance our meals and have all of them balanced as best as they could be. But that's a good start.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we'll go on with our lecture. Today's goals for the lesson, I want you guys to understand what nutrition is, why it's important, what the different food groups are and how we classify them, different portion sizes, calories, so we can really understand what that means and how they affect our nutrition. I'm also going to show you guys how you can locate nutritional facts on food items, because that's an important place to find this information, as well as balanced meals in general. Okay, so we'll start with what is nutrition. The definition of nutrition, it's the process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. So we manage to get our nutrition through the foods we eat, and we really balance our nutrition by having covering the different food groups throughout our meals. So that's an important part of health. So we're going to cover that today. The importance of nutrition. Poor diet is really one of the factors contributing to obesity issues, and we know that this is a huge epidemic not only in the United States but worldwide, that health officials are really trying to reduce the numbers of. So having good nutrition is a good way to prevent some of these obesity issues. Research has also shown that children that have good eating habits perform better academically in school. So eating better can help you not just physically but also intellectually as well, which is very important, especially for your age group while you're still in school. And children who don't eat balanced meals often lack the necessary nutrients for good cognitive functioning or your thought process, and can suffer from fatigue, irritability, as well as difficulty concentrating. It's also been linked to ADHD and other issues as well. Okay, so this is very important that we learn this information. We'll start with our food groups. We have 5 different food groups. So they're really broken down into fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. They used to be in a pyramid shape. Now they've kind of altered that a little bit into a plate shape so that visually we can see how much of each food group we should be having. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Examples of foods in each group. We have fruits. So some examples would be melons, berries, apples, bananas, pineapple. For vegetables, we have broccoli, carrots, potatoes, beans, and celery. For grains, we have our whole wheats, quinoa, rice, oatmeal, and our refined grains. An example of a refined grain would be bread, like white bread. Proteins, we have chicken, fish, lean meats like beef, eggs and nuts all count as proteins. And for dairy, we have milk, yogurt, cheese, milk-based substitutes, and milk-based desserts. Does anybody know what a milk-based substitute would be? You seem to be struggling, so I'll give you some examples. A substitute for milk, some people can't have dairy, so you could have lactose-free milk, you could have almond milk. They make other substitutes that would meet this food requirement for those that are lactose intolerant. So, can anyone think of any extra examples that aren't on the slide?
What about tomatoes?
Tomatoes, there's been a debate in the past. Tomatoes used to be classified as a vegetable, but they've actually discovered that they're really a fruit because they have their seeds on the inside. So there is a little bit of debate. Different literature may still say it's a vegetable, but it could be based as a fruit as well. And I believe our sources, which we will check out later, say that it is a fruit. So that was a good question though, because that is one that's a little bit controversial. So we have a website that we can go to that's really great. It has a lot of information on how to balance your meals and how to plan meals. It's called choosemyplate.gov. It was released by the United States Department of Agriculture in 2011. And it portrays the 5 food groups through a place setting visual rather than a pyramid to give us a better visual, as you can see in the picture down here, of how we would break up our foods onto our plate in order to have the most balanced meals that we could. So this replaced the food pyramid. It provides tips for healthy living for Americans. There's also a portion of the website that's designed for children, and it has different activities that you can do on there to help familiarize yourself with this information. So we'll go to the website right now just to check it out. Oops. Give me one moment to load the website. I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. Okay, so this is our choosemyplate.gov website. And you guys can pull this up on your computers at your desks as well. So hang on, let me just scroll down so we can see. It breaks our food groups up into a plate visual where we have our fruits, our vegetables, our grains, proteins, and our dairy off to the side. And when you click on each category, it brings up more information. So we can go to our food gallery for fruits. And we can see on here that, hold on one second. You can see on here that there's a ton of information about our different categories. So it really goes into different examples of different categories of fruits. Like under melons, we have cantaloupes, honeydew, watermelon. Goes into fruit juices. We click on this one. And then you can also find out about nutrients and health benefits of fruits, tips to help you eat fruits, as well as a food gallery. So let me just click on here, and we'll click other fruits, and we can see on here, oops, hang on one second, experiencing technical difficulties with this computer. We can scroll down and we can see if they have tomatoes on here like some of our sources do. Okay, this list doesn't list tomatoes on here, but that's okay. Some sources do. It's a little bit controversial. But really, when you go through the different categories, you can see tips on how you can implement these foods into your meals a little bit better, as well as how they're beneficial to your diet. So in here it says some ways to get fruits into your meals would be to keep an entire bowl of fruit on the table. That way you see it, you eat it. Power of suggestion. And then you can snack on fruits. It gives you a list of different types of snacks you can have with fruits, as well as tips for children, how to get them, like you can make them fruit kebabs and make fruit kind of fun to implement into your meals. So you can go through each category and you can see exactly how the food groups work.
I have a question.
Sure, what's your question?
When I eat meals, I don't really ever think of eating fruit in a meal. But as you said, I could use it as a snack. So if I don't have fruit in my meal, is it okay if I have it later as a snack?
Yeah, I mean, you do really want to try to balance each meal as best as possible, but having fruit as a snack is a good way to have it as part of your meal. You can also have as your drink with your meal a fruit juice. They make some really great smoothie drinks and fruit juices. You just want to make sure that they have, real fruit in them, which we'll get to. Will be on the nutritional label. So that's a good way. You can have a fruit salad as part of your meal. Some regular salads now you can put tangerines in your salad. There are ways to implement fruit, but having it as a snack is a good way to get it in your diet.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions? No? Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint here. Okay, so that's our ChooseMyPlate.gov, which you guys will be using as a reference a little bit later with your activity we're going to do. This is just another example of, this is a really good worksheet on portion sizes. So I did print it out for all you guys to have, so I'll hand that out to you. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, so on this worksheet, you guys can look at it for reference. It just kind of shows you visually how to break up your plate once again, in terms of how much of each food group you should have. So this is, it says you should have half a plate of vegetables and fruits. So you want to break up the plate, with those categories, and then you should have 1/4 of a plate of protein and 1/4 of a plate of starch. So on here it does say that there are some exceptions in terms of vegetables and starches. Yams, corn, and potatoes are technically classified as a vegetable, but they're very high in starches. So you can place those under the starch category and also have another vegetable in its place. Those are the few vegetables that are an exception that go over to starch. Other starches could be, your rice or your quinoa or your bread. Those are good ways to get those into the meal. But this just kind of goes through each food category and different foods and visually how you could determine if you're having the right portion size. So it says, for a slice of bread, it should be about the size of a cassette. And then it says for, let's see, we'll find a good example here. A good sized fruit would be, a medium sized fruit would be about the size of a baseball. And then, for some of your meats, like a piece of fish should be about the size of a checkbook. So it just kind of gives you a better idea visually when you're planning your meal and you're serving yourself how much food you should have on your plate in order to best balance the meal. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I find that it's the hardest part of making a meal is the size. I love to eat lots of one food. So I really like how this makes it so that I can see what it is I should be eating versus what I like to eat, which is usually too much.
Yeah, I mean, this is good to know. A lot of people don't realize, your piece of chicken should be about the size of your fist. So a lot of people are actually overeating certain categories of foods at each meal because they don't realize that a serving size is smaller. And oftentimes we go to a restaurant and they give us more than one serving. And then we think that, that is how big a serving actually is, when really it's maybe 2 or 3 servings. So it's just good to be familiar with this information to make the best dietary choices when planning your meals. So you guys can hang on to those sheets for a little bit later. We'll talk about calories now. The definition of a calorie, it's a unit of measure in terms of heat and energy. So really what that means is how much energy your body can obtain from a certain food that you're eating. So it's estimated that in a day, people should have 1,600 to 2,000 calories per day, but this number gets more specific based on your gender, your weight, and your physical activity level, because some people, need more calories in a day to sustain their weight, and if you're more physically active, you may need more calories as well. But there is a calorie calculator online, which is a great tool that you can determine what calorie count is appropriate for you, so you can better plan your day. Hang on, let me go back. We'll click on this and we can just run through an example. Okay, so on the calorie counter, it asks you first what your gender is. So we'll put in female. Age in years, you guys are about 12. So I'll put in 12 years. And then for weight in pounds, we'll say about 100 pounds. And then it asks for your height as well, to gauge, how your BMI, body mass index, is calculating into this. So in feet, we'll say 4 feet, 11 inches. And then it asks you your activity level, whether you are sedentary. Hang on one second, let me just scroll down. Whether you are sedentary, lightly active, moderately active, or very active. So we'll say moderately active because you guys are pretty active. We'll click on that and then you hit calculate. And it should tell you. Oh, weight in pounds, it wants us to be 19 or older for the example. So we'll just say 19. We'll just make it about an adult. We'll calculate. And it says that this individual, being 19 years old, would have about 2133 calories. So because I guess they're only 100 pounds, which is slightly underweight for somebody that age, they would need more calories to bring their weight up. If you were overweight, it may tell you that if you wanted to lose weight, you would need to have less calories in order to bring your weight down.
So if I sit around all day and watch TV, I have to eat less?
Not necessarily. It depends on whether you're a healthy weight or not, really. If you're a healthy weight, then you wouldn't really need to change how much you're eating. But if you were overweight and you wanted to lose weight and you were sitting a lot, you would either need to increase your physical activity or maybe change the types of foods you're eating to better gauge your calorie count in order to lose weight. So it depends on a lot of different factors, but we do this just to kind of get a healthy idea of where we should be with our calories.
And that's why the average is somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000 calories.
Exactly. It varies for individuals. So nutritional facts. The Food and Drug Administration requires that all nutrition labels be printed on food packages so everyone has the opportunity to know this information about what they're eating. This information is usually located on the back or the bottom of your food packages. And you can find all the components of your foods here. So this is just an example of a food label. It says that there's 200 calories in this specific food item. It also goes through, how much fat's in the food item, cholesterol, sodium, your different categories of components that make up food, your carbohydrates. And you do have, besides your food groups, in order to make sure you're as healthy as you can be, you do have 6 essential nutrients. And those are your carbohydrates, your proteins, your lipids, your minerals, your vitamins, and water. And these are just 6 things that our bodies do not make that we should be obtaining through our food. So on here, carbohydrates would be an example of one of those that you would want to get in your day. And this food item has 36 grams of carbs, which is 12% of your daily value. So the percentages can be useful too to help you make sure you're getting as much of your percent daily value as you can.
How do I make sure I'm getting all of my nutrients?
If you eat a balanced meal and you hit all the different food groups, you really should be getting all of your essential nutrients. You do want to make sure even if you're not having water at your meals, that you're drinking enough water throughout the day, because water is one of those things that your body needs. But a lot of your foods do have water in it. If you're eating pasta, you'll be getting a little bit of water from that. as well as whatever water is making up whatever drinks you're having. But a good way to make sure you're getting water is to drink glasses of water in addition.
Okay.
But really, if you're having a balanced meals throughout the day, you should be getting all of your essential nutrients. Okay, so in summation, a balanced meal, it should really contain all 5 of the food groups that we talked about. It should have the correct portion size of each food, as well as the appropriate amount of calories for you for a day, and you can break your calories up into each meal. And if you do all of these things and you try to eat as best as you can, you will have a healthy lifestyle and will hopefully lead an overall healthy life. So we can review a little bit. Can anyone tell me what the 5 food groups are?
Fruits,
Mm-hmm. Good job.
greens,
Okay.
Proteins,
Uh-huh. We got 2 more.
dairy,
Uh-huh.
and vegetables.
Perfect. Good job, guys. All right, so we do have an activity that I wanted you to do. Basically, what we're going to do, I'm going to hand out a paper plate to everybody. And I'm just going to have you use what we learned from choosemyplate.gov as well as our reference materials. And I'm going to have you break your plate up into each food group. If you need to put dairy on the back, that's okay. But I'm going to have you break up the plate, and I'm going to have you use your reference sheets and materials to draw out what you think is a balanced meal. And then we'll go over that when you're done, and we'll discuss, ways we can improve our meals if need be, or how you guys did. So let me hand out our plates. You guys all have markers at your desks already. There you go. You're welcome. There you
Thank you.
And we'll take a couple minutes to do this. And I'll be right up here if anybody needs help.
Could you pull up the My Plate page for me?
Sure. Go back to it.
We need examples of each food, correct?
Yes. So you want to pick food items that meet each of the categories requirements, and you just want to draw like what a meal would be for that meal, like what the components of a meal would be. And on your reference sheets, you should have some examples as well as estimates of portion size. Is there a specific category you wanted to see on the website?
Dairy would be nice because I'm having difficulty thinking of something that I could use in dairy that's not just a glass of milk.
Okay. So give me 1 second. Let me pull that up for us. Okay, so we do have a daily dairy table here. And this just kind of goes into size of portions, or we can go to our food gallery, which will give us ideas. Okay, so we have here's each category: food, milks, all the different kinds of milk. You can have milk-based desserts, Um, you can also have yogurt in your meal, as well as cheese. So a good way to implement dairy into your meal if you didn't want a glass of milk could be either having, a yogurt parfait, which could have fruit in it as well, or you could also add cheese to one of the components of your meal, and that would be a good way to have it.
Good, because I like cheese.
Okay. Looks like you're doing a good job, Carol.
Thank you. I
You're
like to draw.
welcome. That's good.
Vegetables. I know. Ooh. How many should we put in each section?
However much you think is a portion, our reference sheets do have some good examples of sizes, as well as, how many ounces of something you should have, and visually what that would look like. So you can look at your reference sheet too. And we'll go over this at the end and make sure everybody seems to be understanding. How's everybody doing?
Almost finished. 2 more food groups.
Okay.
Grains and dairy.
I'm done.
Okay.
You work fast, Carol.
I'll collect everybody's in a moment, and we'll go over a couple of them.
Ooh, I just thought of something.
What color do you need?
I need something dark. I have to guess. Let's see.
Everybody finished?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna come around and collect everybody's papers. Plates, I should say. And we'll go over a couple of them. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. On this plate, for our vegetables, we have 1 cup of green beans, which is great. Vegetables are green beans are a good example of a vegetable. For our grains, we have 1 baked potato, which is very good because we remember potato is really, it's a vegetable, but it's very high in starch. So we would put it in the grain or starch category. For protein, we have 3 ounces of steak, very good portion size. And for our fruits, we have 1 cup of strawberries, so very good. You've got your grains, your fruits, your vegetables, and your protein. And then on the back, we've got 1 tablespoon of sour cream for potato. That's perfect. Sour cream is another good example of a way that we can implement dairy into our food groups. So that is an excellent example. Let's see what else we've got. So on this one for fruit, we have a mixture of fruits. Looks like oranges, apples, blueberries, bananas.
Fruit salad.
Fruit salad, exactly. That's perfect because it's a good way to get, each of our fruits can have different elements to it that make us healthy. So it's good to have an assorted color arrangement of fruit as well if you can. For vegetables, it looks like we have some broccoli, we have some peas in there. That's very good. Both are good examples. And carrots. And for protein, we have fish, so that is great. And you'd want to make sure your fish is, about the size of your fist. And for grains, it looks like we also have a potato, so very good. You guys remembered that potatoes, even though they're vegetables, would be counted as our grains or starches. And then for dairy, we could have Dan and vanilla yogurt, so excellent example. It seems like you guys are really getting the concept. Is there anything that anyone was confused about during the activity?
I had to guess a little bit on the dairy of the sour cream because I knew it was dairy, but I didn't know how much. But
well, that's where our reference sheet is good. It tells you visually how much you should have on there, as well as it breaks it down into ounces, which I know you guys may not fully understand, but we do have measuring cups, so if you were preparing a meal or your mom was preparing a meal, you could actually measure it out exactly to the specifications on the sheet.
Oh, yes, I see. It says 1.5 ounces of cheese is about 3 dice, and that's about a tablespoon.
Yeah, so it tries to give you as best as it can a visual guide, so like when you are serving, you can say, oh, well, this looks like about 3 dices. And if you did really want to get very specific with your meals and how to balance them, you could weigh out your food. Some people do that to make sure they have fully balanced meals. They measure things out, they weigh things to make sure they're the right ounces. But on there, it just does its best to give us a visual guide. And you guys did an excellent job on your plates.
So that means that if it's a container, it's not just 1 serving? Always?
No, on our nutritional fact labels, it'll tell you serving size as well as in addition to your calories and your carbohydrates. Some containers will say, 1 serving, and then the whole container is your serving. Other times it'll say, 2 servings or 4 servings. And so it's just mindful. You want to look at the nutritional label to make sure you are getting, you're not overeating a certain amount of a certain food if you're balancing your meal. So now we'll move on to our exit ticket activity on the same worksheet that you guys did earlier. I just want you to write down next to what you wrote down for your meals, any ways you can think of based on what you learned that you could improve upon these meals to better balance them. So we'll take a few moments to do that. We'll take a few moments to do that, and we'll just go over an example of ways we can make them better.
it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard to balance your meals. That's why we're learning this. You know, just something you could be mindful of when you're trying to pick your meals throughout the day. And if you can't think of an example for each meal, you can just go over one at a time. Okay, so I'm going to collect everybody's papers. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so on our do now activity, the first meal was toast with butter and an apple. So a way that we could improve this meal, they wrote down to eat. They wrote down for their meal throughout the day. They said they had peanut butter and jelly sandwich and potato chips as well later on in the day. So they could eat a fruit instead of potato chips. That is a great way. Because while potato chips are potatoes, they're fried. They may not be the most healthy option, but it is a good way if you didn't have fruit throughout the day to get that in there, or it's a healthier alternative. So that is a good example. And then for this person, they said they had coffee cake, coffee and water at breakfast, or one meal, a Caesar salad, veal parm, bread, soda, pasta at another meal, burrito, rice, beans, cheese, pork, corn, salsa, and soda at their third meal. So some ways they said they could improve it. For the breakfast, instead of having just coffee cake, coffee, and water, they could add eggs to their breakfast as well as a banana, which would be an excellent way to balance that meal. And the other meals, they were already pretty balanced already. So good job, guys. It seems like you really learned how you can better balance your meals throughout the day and lead a healthier lifestyle. So that concludes our lesson for today. These are just some of my references if you guys wanted to look at further information. And that's it.